Hello everyone, welcome to today's Novedge webinar. Create, evaluate, and visualize your design faster with Inspire Studio. Altair Inspire Studio is the new solution for innovative designers, architects, and digital artists to create, evaluate, and visualize design faster than ever before. With unrivaled flexibility and precision, its unique construction history feature, along with multiple modeling techniques, empowers users throughout the creative process, as you will shortly see. Today, our webinar's presenter, Arjun Ajjampur, is a product specialist at Altair, and he has a master in industrial design with over 10 years of experience working both as a designer and 3D modeler. And welcome aboard, Arjun. And let me tell you a little bit about Novedge before I share a screen. Novedge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, and faster service. Check us out at novedge.com, especially if you want to take advantage of this exclusive offer. We're giving away free Altair Inspire trials that are particularly lengthy. We give away a 90-day trial. So just email sales@novedge.com and request one, and you will receive it within a matter of days. So no better way to test a product to get their hands inside it and play with it. And you have, 90 days is pretty good time. And now, without further ado, I will introduce to you Arjun, and he's gonna show you all about Inspire. Okay, we're seeing your screen.
Thank you, Barbara.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thanks for the great introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I wanted to share some of the things that we are known for in Inspire Studio and how it can bring great value to your current design process. And after looking at Novedge's promo, it would be a really great offer if you missed it. So let's get started. As Barbara already mentioned, Altair Studio Inspire Studio is an all-in-one solution from Altair. We have amalgamated a lot of different design techniques into one program, and people who are familiar with us since the solid thinking days will know that we've carried forward a lot of the advantages in terms of construction history, polygonal modeling, solid surface modeling, and also there are a lot of new things that we've added this year, and I'll be very happy to share that with you. So in essence, Altair Inspire Studio lets you create, evaluate, and visualize your designs. And we'll take a look at how you can do that through some really easy tools wherein you can create a design and then change some parameters in a tool called Design Table and look at the changes real time. So gone are the days when you have to go back and change your whole history to look at the new design. As I said before, we strive to enhance flexibility for our users, and a lot of our customers are used to a lot of changes in their ideas, and they want to be able to implement that as quickly as possible. So we have provided a lot of different ways to create your designs, bring your designs into shape with not just the construction history part of it, but some new really cool things with the integrated sketching, some new tools with the curves and surfacing, and also our very famous Polyneups, wherein you can just do a lot of organic shapes, especially if you're working with optimized geometry, if you already know about structural optimization, or you're also doing some shapes for jewelry and so on. So you can still leverage the Polyneups aspect of that. I wanted to quickly start off with a small intro video that shows what I mean by designing with precision and speed. given the fact that we've added so many different kinds of modeling techniques, you can mix and match them and create some really quick iterations. So I'm just going to hit play here, and there might be a little bit of lag, but here you can see I'm just changing some of the copies of a symmetry, of a radial symmetry. And now I'm going back to the original shape underneath that in the tree and editing its layout in terms of the distribution of the edges and so on. So it doesn't have to be that cumbersome for you to change anything. You just can go back into the tree and edit it in real time. So some of the things that I just will run through, but later show you, is the new user interface with a new tool belt that lets you, this gives you access to almost every tool with just one click. And all of our tools are now broken down into ribbons on top. Previously, if you're familiar with Solid Thinking, Evolve, they were all on the left-hand side with a similar grouping structure. But right now, we've moved everything up here, and you can reach all of them really, really fast. And just the quick run through the layout here on the left side, you can see the model browser, your entire scene, and also when you select an object, you can look at its construction tree and edit it. There's a new guide bar here you can see on the top that walks you through the process of creating or of the entire tool that you're using, starting from selecting input faces and also editing any of the options that are available. And although we did not have sketching for a while, this is a new environment we've added in 19.4 and also in 20. I'll show you that in a minute. That really gives you the traditional flexibility of a CAD tool, wherein you can create a sketch and constrain it using all the parameters. But at the same time, if you want to rebuild something that is pretty close to the design, but you don't have to worry about having all the data at hand, you can still do that using some quick Polyneups modeling, which is like a 15-minute rendition of this 120-minute version you see here. And a lot of our customers come from automotive and industrial design background. So in 2020, we have enhanced some of the capabilities of designing some of these kinds of surfaces, especially concept design. And this is not just for automotive. We are just trying to show the speed with which you can turn around from a sketch to a fully detailed model that you can then take it to the wind tunnel. Altair also has products that let you analyze the flow of air through over an object, and you can make real-time changes. So we are working on many such innovative programs as I speak. So here is a quick video wherein you can start from a freehand sketch, and we have specific tools for creating wheel arches and quickly starting off with just one half of the car, wherein you can just extrude some edges. And we have added, or rather improved, a lot of the tools that we had before in terms of the control you have over these kinds of operations, especially when it comes to editing the points with a lot of precision. You can now control not only using the vertices and edges, but also you can align them to curves and surfaces in your scene. So here you can see that we are quickly closing and opening and then adding some details, and you can select the faces and insert them with a very specific distance. And you can also throw in some edge loops to add more details to your model. So you can also probably notice here that I'm working in symmetry mode. So I'm just modeling on one half of the car, keeping everything consistent. And of course, a lot of details that you can see here are, of course, they took longer, but the point is that you can still do things that you couldn't before. So here I'm aligning some of these vertices to a curve, and I can move the CVs of that curve, and all the vertices will move with it. And this just lets you control some of these parameters much more precisely, in the end giving you shapes that are that were harder to achieve before. So this is a completely Polyneups model where you can see that except for the wheel that was designed using surface modeling, everything else has been done using Polyneups. Some examples I just want to share before we jump right in. I think Inspire Studio is like a steal when it comes to the features. It's fully loaded when it comes to rendering, because we use the state-of-the-art rendering. As you might know, Altair acquired Thea a year ago, and we've completely integrated that engine into Inspire Studio. So you get extremely highly physically accurate renderings with an access to interactive rendering that is super fast in your modeling views. And we support almost all kinds of input formats. And we have customers that not only work with jewelry here, but also on furniture and consumer products as well. So here I would like to jump into a live demo. I want to show you what you can do with Inspire. I will start off with a 19.4 version that has all the new features that I spoke about, and also show you the latest ones with the 2020 version. So here we are. This is the way it will look when you first open it. Inspire Studio has a very minimalistic look. You can always change the colors and so on. We have several options for you, but on the top you can see we have the sketching ribbon, curves, surfaces, Polyneups, and so on. So these are all specific to your to this program, and in the future we'll keep adding some more options here. But at the moment, let's just quickly see how we can create something. So I'm going to expand this view here. I'm currently working on my Windows machine, so here I can do an alt right click, and you will see this is a quick way to access all your tools, and you can just hover your mouse over one of them and then just click to create one of these. So I'm going to start off with a simple sphere just to show you how you can create all these objects within Studio. So here, when I create a sphere, I have options like this in the view, wherein I can precisely tell how big it should be. And if there are additional options for that tool, you will see that in the, pardon me for a second. Sorry, my cat was trying to get out of the room. Okay, now she's out. So here I have this sphere, and any object that has options to change its in the view will have these kinds of blue highlights. So here I have start and end angle, wherein I can edit it using a precise value or just do it visually. Even after you create this, let's say you do another operation on this, and I'm going to trim this with another circle. So let's go to trim, select the input objects, right click, and then you can remove whatever you don't need. This sphere can still be changed when you go to the history. So I can double click on it and edit the shape of the sphere to whatever I want. So just a quick example of how construction history works in Studio is that every model, every object will show a small tree here on the bottom left, and you can go down the tree to edit its input objects, and the propagation is going to be pretty much instant here. So let's start with something more complex than a sphere. So here I have this, I'm looking down on the top view. I'm going to start with a sketch. So I'm going to go with sketching, select the center rectangle. I'll just click on this top view, and I'm going to snap it here. I'm going to use grid snap, so you can see it's snapping to these grids, and you can set this grid dimension in the preferences. Right now it's set to 1, which means I'm working in centimeters, so each grid is 1 centimeter. So I'm going to create an arbitrary size. I'm going to drop in my dimensions. So let's make this 30, and you can select these two using control and set the equal dimension. So now I have a fully constrained sketch, if that matters, because in Studio we don't really need a fully constrained sketch. And another cool thing is in Inspire Studio, every tool can take multiple input types. So here I'm with an extrude. I not only can do an extrusion using just a curve, but also using surface or edge. So I can type in the value I want here. So let's start with 45. And I'm going to give it a draft angle. So here, let's make it -5, if we can invert it. And I don't want to create caps, but you can close it if you want. So this is what I've done right now. And here, I'm going to add a round to this edge. And that you can do by just invoking the round tool. So you just click on that and it'll drop a radius there. And you can then modify it the way you want. So let's create a variable radius fillet for the time being here. So I'm going to start off with 6. And I'm going to right click on it and then change the type here to variable. So when I click on variable, I can move anywhere along this line. If I hold the Alt key, I can drop another radius. So let me drop radius here and select this and change it. Let's make it 4 or 3. And you can also edit more details on where you want to position that along this edge. So let me put it about 20%. And I want this top one to be all the way at 100. Okay, so I have added this. Now this is my detail, and I don't want to model every corner like this. So I'm going to just trim this part out and use it to replicate around. So for that, I will need a square or a rectangle, and I can use a just simple rectangle. I'm going to create one here. Just make sure that the size and everything is the way you want. So here I can see that I missed this a little bit. So I can anchor one of these. So I'm going to anchor this corner and then use the arrow here to just snap it into place. So now I know that I'm exactly at the center here. And I will just trim this out with this, and I will only keep the inside. So I have this one corner of this object, and right now I just don't want to work with my curves anymore. I'm just going to create a new layer. In the layers tab, I'm going to select these two, right click in the view and say move to layer, new layer. And this blue dot here shows me what is the default. I just want to keep working with my default layer. I'm just going to rename this new layer as curves. And oops, that doesn't matter. Then I'm going to turn it off and basically make it invisible. And I'm still working in the default layer, and now I want to do some driven editing in terms of create some objects that are always driven from another object. So I'm not going to use sketching in this case. I'm just going to show you how I would do it. So here I have an edge on top, right? That's running all the way. I want to create another curve that is always 5 centimeters from this edge. So the way I would do it is I would just create an offset. And here I can directly work with the edge. So I've created an offset. And by default, it selected everything. So I don't have to redo it. I just want to select one part of it. So I'm going to just click on this replay icon here and hold Alt and click one of these edges. That way I get one edge. And with this edge, of course, the normal is not defined. It'll always go down or up. So here I've gone down and I'll change it to 5. And swipe, right click, swipe to finish. And this edge will always be 5 centimeters from this top edge. So I'm going to use this to create some trims and so on. The next one I'll do is I'm going to extend this slightly so that it crosses over this edge, because I want to create an intersection of another edge here. I'm going to repeat this process for this on the edge on the right side. So I will do another offset, hold down the Alt key and type in 5. then redo the extend here until it moves all the way. So once we've done this, I'm going to go ahead and extract an edge. So with Studio, you can just extract edges from almost any place. And again, I'll hold Alt here and here. Okay. So I have all these 4 curves. Now I want to trim them and create a closed object. So I'll use the intersect and just select all of these input objects and right click. Now I just want to remove things I don't want. I can sketch on this and remove it, or I can click it and remove it. So here I'm just going to select this and remove the edges that I don't want. Now I have this intersected curve which is lying on top of the surface, and I can use a trim perpendicular to surface. And so if you find things like this, you need to just change it to perpendicular, and then you can keep interior. So here I have this one part of the bars tool that I'm creating. So I can go ahead and start creating my symmetry objects here. So I'll select radial symmetry, select, oops. So even if you select the wrong object, as I said, no need to worry. You can just reselect it. So I selected this one. I can move the center to this. You can even type in the exact center value and type in 4 for the number of copies. You can even, there are additional options sometimes here. You can see I can trim objects if they're overlapping. In this case, they're not because I perfectly cut it beforehand, but I can also combine objects. So I'm going to combine it so that my output is going to be one surface. So here I have one surface that I can use as input to the next step. So before I do that, I forgot to do one thing. So let me go ahead and step back one step. So I'm going to delete this. It'll bring me back here. I want to add some features here on this leg so that I can replicate it, after that. So I'm going to extract an isopalm on this surface somewhere around here. You can even select it and type in the correct value. So I want it exactly in the middle. And I'm going to create a cylinder somewhere in the view. So I'm just going to create it here. Okay, so this is like a cylinder that has some arbitrary size. So you can edit it now. And I want to place the cylinder on this isopalm. So I'll just do a replicate. Select this as the input object and this as the path, and you can see that it creates a copy. I just want one, and now I just want to orient it in the path direction. So here I'm going to select on this, and right now I'm using the global axis, but I can switch it to a local and rotate it by 90 degrees. So this is now facing the same orientation as the object, as the path. And I can move this anywhere along this curve. So I can use options in my control panel like Start U to move it somewhere along this curve. So I'm going to drop it about halfway, so 0.5. And I'm going to add a round to these. So here I have a round, and I can change the shape slightly. Okay, so now I will do an intersect of this with this, right click on it and remove things that I don't want. So here I am getting rid of the things that I don't want. And so here is the feature that I actually missed before. So now I can do what I did earlier, which is replicate it. So let's do that. Radial symmetry, just go to the top view to quickly select this one, change it to 4. And you can also click on this and type in 0, 0, 0. And make sure you combine with inputs. So here I have this feature replicated everywhere, and later I'll show you how if you change it, everything is going to change. So now I can again select some of the curves I drew and throw them into the curves layer. So if I hit C on the keyboard and draw a box, it will just select all the curves. So I can do right click, move to curves, and they're already hidden, so it'll just disappear. And I'll hit C again to bring back my full selection. And if you haven't saved the file in a while, now would be a good time. So I'm getting a prompt here saying, oh, do you want to save the file? And say, okay, it should bring up. So I'm just going to go here. So I'm going to say, let's say bar stool. Okay, so this is start. And now I can use the top edge here to build off of this. So I'll use an extrude, select this edge. Everything gets selected, and I can type in the value I want. So let's put 3 centimeters. And now I want to cap this, but I only want to cap it on the top. So here, if I click on the cap, it'll remove the cap from the bottom. So I can just double check. There you go. So we've removed it. And at this point, I can start creating my offset. So I have 2 objects here. They're separate, but they're still driven off the same edge. I can just use a offset tool to select my input objects. And the offset, I'm just going to see what is the smallest value I can type in. So let's go back and see what's going on. So here, when I select offset, it is saying there is an error in this. So if I switch it inwards, it is not working. So let's try to change this round. That could be the problem. So I'm going to go to the cylinder, to the round, and change it to 0.5. Hopefully this should fix it. But the intersect needs to be fixed now. So I'm going to delete these 2. And try to create an offset of this. So there we go. So the round was a little bit of a tricky situation. So I just edited the radius of the round. I didn't have to rebuild most of the things. So here I'm just going to give an offset of 0.35. And I have an option to thicken this. Let's make it 0.5. And here you can see that I've already finished selecting the input objects. And I have gone into the next step where I'm defining the thickness of this. But you can still go and add more objects to the input lists by just clicking on the objects and then selecting something else. So here I will add this to the selection, and it gets added here, as you can see. But there are some really cool options with offset and shelling. That is, you can do custom offset. So I'm going to start a custom mode here. And I just want a different thickness for this top seat. So if I hit 1 on the keyboard, you'll see that it's the same thickness as the sides, but I want something else. So I can select it and turn on a new value for this, and let's make it 1.25. So the offset will be different on that face, but everywhere else it's 0.25 or 0.5. So that's the custom mode, and you can really give any face its own offset value. And maybe we could have even solved the problem with rounds by giving a custom offset for the round. And I didn't have to rebuild it. But here I have thickened it, which means it'll create a solid out of it. Now, you just want to verify if it's a solid. I just select this, go to my analysis tab, and run a tolerance check on it. So it will check if there are any open edges. It's telling me it's a closed solid with this tolerance of 0.001 centimeter. But now the last step will be to add some more details to this. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to just do an offset of this edge here, about 3, bring it in using the invert button. And I'm just going to create a circle somewhere here. It doesn't have to be precisely on the plane either. So, and I can use a sweep with this as input and this as a path. But it will go through that input. I can align it by using auto alignment, which brings the input here. And now I want to create another copy of this. So I'm just going to do a copy paste, double click on it, change this to 0.5, and extract another edge. here and repeat the same process. So I'm going to do another sweep with this on this edge. So if you click on something that has two objects underneath, you get this pop-up. So here I can select edge extract and auto line it. And since these are all solid objects, I can do a Boolean now. So I can go to modify and select Boolean subtraction, select my main object, right click, and then I select both these objects, right click, and then it will remove that from my main object. So I've finished that. So I can select these two, move it into curves. So the last step will be to add some details. So I'm going to throw in some fillets here. So let's start with the large ones on these edges. So one here. This one. So my idea is to actually try to select as many as I can in that view before I pan or rotate my object. So even if you pick on a face, it'll give you an option to select the edge. I wish I had my 3D mouse with me because that would have saved me at least 5 minutes. So if you're working with a 3D connection mouse, you can easily orbit this model super fast and get to these really tricky places. Okay, so I've added these all to my edge set, and I right click and I can change the value. Let us make it 3. Okay, and now I can add more edges into the same object. So if I go to my model browser, you can see that I have round number 4 here. I don't need to create round 5, round 6. I can just go here and say add an edge set for me. You can add it and then select new edge I want. But it will use the old radius value. So obviously 3 is too big here. I will want to change it to 1.5 and it should solve the problem. Similarly, if I want to add another edge set, I can add it here. But again, I have to make sure that I give the correct radius and select all the edges that I want. Okay, so since I wanted to control some of the aspects, I will add one more round to these edges. So this is 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. I could have even done this before I did the symmetry. So here we are. Okay, so I am happy with this current model. So I'm going to show you how you can run some quick design checks on this and change the shape and figure out whether or not you like what you're seeing. So let's start with by saving this and going to analysis. I'm sorry. Yeah. Going to save this as an option. So the new tool to change we have created a new tool in 2020. I'm going to show that to you shortly, but I can show you how you can edit the shapes now within Studio currently in this version. So here I have, of course, I started with the basic sketch, right? So you can go to the basic sketch here and change this value, dimension. So let's say you want to change the chair to 25. So you can make a smaller chair. So everything is going to update. Or you don't have to change any other options because it'll try to figure out most of the things depending on the complexity. So the next thing that we can change is probably the height of the chair. So what we try to show in Studio is that most of the only the top level objects are seen, but there is a way for you to see everything, which is show, hide, all sorts of objects. And here you can see that I was talking about the extrusion. So here with extrusion, I can change this to 55, and it's going to change the height of the chair, of the bar stool, and nothing failed. So basically you were able to edit most of the things here. And similarly, you can even test if you wanted to change this value of the rounds here. So let's say here, you just wanted to make it even smaller and see what happens there. So this way you can really quickly edit the design as long as you know exactly what you want to change. So most often I end up naming my objects because sometimes I don't remember. For example, this is the height of the seat. So here I can easily make it double if I knew that that was called a seat. So this way Studio lets you change a lot of things on the fly. So now let's go quickly to what else we can do with Studio. So on top of this, let's just think of a cushion that you want to sit on. So I'm going to go to Polyneups, go to the top view, and then bring in a, let's then start with a polyplane. So I'm going to create it here. So I can give the exact size. So I know that size of that seat is 35 with a 5-degree draft angle. But so I'm just going to keep this 25 by 25. And this is just a simple Polyneups mesh. So there's nothing great going on here. I can add some loops for this. For example, just drop one here. I can also do multiple splits and just drop edges wherever I want it. And if I hit D on the keyboard, I can switch between many techniques. So A is for vertices, S for edges, and D for faces. So I'm just going to select all of this. I'm going to pull it out to create my extrusion of the mesh. So I'm extruding it by, let's say, 6 centimeters. So I right click and swipe. Now this is a mesh mode. I can quickly change this to a smoothened out mode by hitting N on the keyboard, and you can see that there it is. So I have a very, very comfortable cushion. So I'm going to move that into place. So I know that this should be 0, 0, 0. And then I know how tall this chair is. So I can just click on this and say 35. Actually, it's 55, I think. Yeah. So 55, but slightly here. So I can drop it on this. But I can continue to create more details for the shape. So either you can work in this mode, or you can even go back into the mesh mode. So I'm going to draw a couple of more loops here, one here, and one here. And now I want to add some details for the vertices. So I'm going to select 5 of them using Control. Okay, and then I can chamfer them. So you right click and you can do chamfer. You can chamfer all of them in one shot. Okay, and then when I hit D, it's going to quickly switch to the selection of faces that were newly created, and I can push them down. So I'm going to go down like 0.5. I will go down once more because I want some depth. Okay, and there you go. So you created some cool looking things here, but now I want to draw one. I want to drop some more details into this. So I can go back to my top view, and you can either duplicate a face, or you can extract it. So here I have these faces selected. What I can do is I can right click and I can extract these faces. So when I say extract, it's going to remove it from that selection. I don't want to extract, I want to duplicate it. So I click duplicate faces, and here you have these faces duplicated, and I can now extrude them any way I want. So I have this. Okay, so I just wanted to close these. So I'm going to go to close whole and close all of these off. So now there's one Polyneups object, right? So this is still here. So I can double click on it, go to vertices mode, select this, then just drop it down where I want it to go. So if you don't want to snap it anywhere, I can hold Alt. That gives me more freedom. So here minus Okay, so I'm happy with this. So here we've created something. You can play around with it. You can select only parts of the model. For example, like this, these edges we're going to select. And you can hit the move tool and scale them down. So it's going to scale only the edges like this. So there are a lot of ways you can continue to sculpt this object the way you want. So there are many options. And I think we would be short on time if I started to show everything, but I hope it gives you an idea. But let me quickly show some of the things that are I can't probably show in detail. So here I have this edge, and I want a particular shape for this edge. So let's say I go and draw a curve of a very different shape. Okay, and so I've hidden everything. Let me bring it out to the edge here. So let's say you had a curve that you really wanted this shape to follow, this edge to follow. So I can select this edge, entire edge using Alt. So the loop will be selected and convert it to a vertex editing by just hitting A, and I can align it to a curve here. So I have an align to curve option, and I can select the curve as input. So there you can see that it has aligned it, but of course it will not align exactly to the shape of the curve because the underlying object only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. So if you have more vertices, the shape will be more precise. So there are some ways. You can either align to a curve, or if you just wanted to align it to something else, you can do that. And here is where I just quickly want to show symmetry too. So here I'm working on one side. I'm going to turn on symmetry along X. So when okay, let's say, sorry, Y. Okay, so here when I select something, it should show you your corresponding opposite vertex in white. So you can see it's in white here. So when I align these edges or these vertices to this curve, the opposite side will also be aligned. So you don't have to do it twice. So there are some cool tools that you can do to align things and be more precise in terms of your shape. So right now, let us quickly jump into rendering. We are already at 11:43, and I want to give some time for questions. So you can start interactive render by just hitting S6 on the keyboard. The 6 is for interactive render, and you can see that it has no materials right now, but you can quickly open the material library. Let's go to metals. Let's just pick something. Or let's go to plastic. And I'm going to draw this green satin onto this. So it's going to be green. Then let's take a cushion. So we can go to textile and drop something like this. So we can edit some of the textures a little bit more. So when I go near it, I can probably select this and go to texture positioning. So this lets me play around with the texture. Right now I'm in auto axis, but the global size is just 6. So I can make it bigger. And you can also change some of the attributes of this by just double clicking on it, going to full. Let's say you didn't really like the green, so you can always change it to something else. So there are many materials available for you in the material library, but you can also create your own materials. So one way that I would really like to render the scene is to create my own lighting. So what I'm going to do is just go back to my shading mode. I'm going to create a quick plane. Let's go top view and create a plane. I can hit W on the keyboard to move it up. And I'm going to use that plane as an emitter. So I'll hit 6, select that plane, and click on material and create an emitter. So I just want to make sure it's emitting light in the right direction. Right now it's going up. So let's change this to 500 so that we can see, and then invert the direction, so the light coming down. And now I can go to my environment and I can change. I don't want an illumination from anything outside, so I can turn off almost everything and just let the light do my reflection and refraction. So I'm going to bump this up slightly. So if I can add some more light in the scene. So there are, if you go to rendering tab, you have a light option. So I'm going to drop one here, move it up, double click on it. Or you can go to the lights tab and double click on it, change it to a spotlight, and I can place it directly on a surface. So I'll say place on a surface, and I'll place it here. So although it went there, but and then I can change the aperture of this. So here I have also changed the wattage. Now when I hit 6 on the keyboard, you can see that there is an additional light coming in. I can always edit the intensity. And if you want to add a ground, you can go to the environment, go to global, and do an infinite sphere. Then you can throw in a ground plane on it. But I like to create my own ground. So let's make reflectivity. And of course, the light that we have is not enough. So I'm going to increase that. You can also move it in real time to bring it down. And let this go to a view. And I'm just going to hit render. So right now I have 2 lights. So I'm just going to hit render image. So what it does, it opens something called as a darkroom. Darkroom is another standalone application that comes free with Studio, and it lets you handle all your renderings and edit them after you process it. I mean, do some post-processing. So darkroom is going to open that image and start rendering with whichever view you've selected. So given the shortage of time, I think I could have done much better with this rendering, but let's just go with this. So here, it will start rendering instantly, and there are some preset. For example, the number of samples that will be rendered is 500, and it's right now rendering 122 of it. And you can see that you can turn on the information to see what mode you're using. In Studio, you have Presto, ray tracing, and also final rendering. And once it's complete, I'm using an RTX 4000 here. So it'll be pretty fast for this. You can see how many samples you rendered and so on and so forth. Let's look at a better file as far as rendering is concerned quickly. So I'm going to keep the darkroom open, and I'm going to save this file and open another file. So let's go to render finish. So this is another file that was created. All the geometry was created in Studio, and I've set up the scene so that the rendering is a little more complex. So I'm going to hit 6 to start the IR. And you can see here I've placed some images on surfaces, and I've given some more lightings and better materials. So I can switch between cameras even when I'm in interactive rendering mode. And you can see that the change is pretty much instantaneous. So let's just turn it around. And I go to render settings here on the top. I can also change the preset. So let's change it to a slightly larger file, like 1600. And I have many lights in the scene, but I want to make sure that I can edit those lights separately. So I've enabled relight in the scene. So relight is another feature that's free of charge, comes with the darkroom. You can edit every light in your scene separately. So I have enabled relight, and I'm going to hit render. So this will quickly pop up my darkroom and start rendering the image here. And you might see that it's dark for a few frames because it's still processing, but sooner or later you will see that scene and it will show the image. So right now we're at 16 samples. So on the right side of the darkroom, you can see all these options to edit your image. So once the image is completely rendered, you can edit the tone mapping or the like add some glares and so on and so forth. So depending on your graphics card, this might take longer or shorter, but we've tested a variety of graphic cards. So if you have a GeForce 2, it's going to work. So now this has got me wondering why it is not showing me anything. So I can always stop this and restart it. So let me just stop it. Go back here and maybe change the, there it is. Anyway, it rendered. So it was just taking a long time to show. So you can see that here, if I hit the eye, just with 172 samples out of 500, it looks pretty good. So you don't have to render out 500 samples. You can do it with less than that, depending on your graphics card. And as I said earlier, when you render something with relight, there's a small R on the image. So you can go to the relight tab and play around with the lights here. So let's say you can see there are 3 lights here. The main environment light, there is a smaller spotlight on both sides. So if I want to make one of them solo, I just hit the solo button here, and it's going to just turn on those lights for me. So I can turn off or turn on some lights. So if I turn all of these off, of course, it'll be completely dark, but you get the gist of this. So if I don't want that green highlight, I can do that. So if I go back to image browser, I can edit some more settings. For example, if there is noise, you can use NVIDIA optics. In 2020, we also have Intel Denoiser. And if you want to add some vignetting or some glares, you can do all of this inside Darkroom really quickly to give you a very, very quick image editing. So for example, if I wanted to add some more options like filmic, or even change the balance to make it cooler or hotter, warmer, so I can edit that too. So once you're done, you can hit save, and it's going to save this, and you can export it. In subsequent webinars and videos, I will show you how we can use network rendering and also create movies with relights, because we have an option to add all of these different images into a time frame and then export a movie from here. So, and there are a lot of options inside Darkroom. If you find that your render took, you could have done better. You don't have to re-render everything. You can just restart the rendering from that frame onwards. So here, even if I look, there is some noise here. So if I turn on the NVIDIA Optics Denoiser, you can see some things will get clear. It might take like 10 or 12 seconds, but there are several options for you to just not spend a lot of time creating a very high quality render. You can do it with denoising and so on. So here you see everything is clean, and I did it in just one click. So that is the Darkroom. And going back to our studio application, I wish I could show you more. There are a lot of things. So look for my webinar or my videos on YouTube. You can also look at Altair Inspire Studio to see if there are any upcoming trainings, because we are doing one next week that goes for 5 days, 2 hours per day, and we are comprehensively showing you everything that's new in 2020. So make sure you head there, and also check out Novedge, and don't miss out that 90-day promo. You can always contact support at Solid Thinking, or even just go to Altair and just contact us if you want help. So I hope you enjoyed and you liked what you saw.
That was very nice.
Thank you. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to take questions if we have any.
Yeah, we'll stay here another few minutes, so ask away. And I actually have one question. So the rendering, it's included in the studio.
Yes.
Completed. Okay. Looks pretty nice, I have to say. And
thank you.
Great. I really followed the training. It was registered to the training Arjun was talking about. It's coming up. I know we sent out mailers about that, and we'll share also on our social media the link to register. And I also wanted to remind you again, and we'll still wait for the question, but I want to show you again my screen for a second, so you can see where you can find Studio, Inspire Studio and Novedge.com. As you can see, it's a very good price point, and we're very impressed. We're so impressed by Inspire Studio that we're even offering this 90-day trial. So because we want you to play with it and be as impressed as we are. So I don't see any questions. I think you've been super clear, and you guys just have to come and try it. Let us know. Email sales@novedge.com and claim your free trial. And thanks again for the great demo today, Arjun, and looking forward to the next one already. I know we have a couple of dates scheduled in the near future, so stay tuned. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Bye-bye.